Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. Reporting to the EU Commission in a funded project is an art in itself. From the face of it, it looks like a fairly simple part of implementing a project, but of course it's not. The complexity of implementing the project combined with the number of partners and being on top of regulation and formalities all adds to this task being something that anybody should prepare solidly for. Thanks God you all got the grant to give a helping hand. In the implementation series, I am doing everything I can together with guest experts to give everybody input, information and critical mass on how to carry out an EU-funded project. This week and the next, the wonderful Serena Cogoni, Horizon Europe expert, takes us all through the ins and outs of periodic reporting. In the first half of the double episode, we zoom in on what is exactly the requirements of periodic reporting, how to prepare yourself and your administrative systems, and finally Serena runs through the first periodic reporting itself. Exactly what you need if you are implementing an EU project. Please enjoy. Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Today is another episode in the implementation series, and there's always this time paradox when you record episodes and when they will be released, because this one, when you listen to this, it's quite far away from now. We're talking May, end of May 24. This will probably in the line of episodes be released sometime in autumn, because I have a handful of episodes that needs to come out before this implementation series. So it's like this. It's always a little weird as a podcaster when you handle things like this. It's like this. Going to talk about reporting today. And I have a guest, because I haven't done this a lot. So it's the modus operandi for these episodes that I have a guest, because I haven't done much project implementations myself now. Serena, welcome.
Thank you, Niels, for having invited me in your
Now, of course I invited you,
podcast.
because, and I've been wanting to have you on board for a long time, you are one of my contacts on LinkedIn that are, I always say to people, follow this one. You have a wonderful discourse of your postings on LinkedIn. So anyone that is dealing with proposals and managing EU projects, go like, which is to connect with. So it's there will be a link in the episode notes, as in all my episode pages. There will be a link to her LinkedIn profile, so you can go and connect with her, because it's not just regular updates. It's there's a heart behind those updates, and I love that. It's I have a handful of other contacts that really burn through the screen, so to say. So it's thanks for that. Now, Serena, can you share with us, present yourself shortly, like who you are, where you work, what your experience with EU funding and so on?
Sure. I'm a freelancer, and I'm working on European research funding programs for 20 years now. My focus has always been on the health sector, and particularly on the neuroscience field. I started in a consulting company that offered grant writing and project management services. The fun fact is that initially I was hired as a secretary. So when I started, I knew anything about European research projects. But I was curious and determined. So when they proposed me to be one of the project managers, I accepted. And so I've learned everything from scratch. Since the company offered both grant writing and project management services, I had the opportunity to learn and follow the entire life cycles of projects, from the initial idea and concept to the final report. And I always felt that this is one of the added value of my profile, because unlike many research managers, I never experienced the separation between the pre-award and post-award phases of a project.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're doing with this podcast, I'm also on a mission to increase knowledge and awareness on European funds. So I've recently launched a blog where I share my experience with researchers while approaching European research funds.
And I will have a link to that blog as well, because it is exactly true. It is a matter of, so sort of to sum up, if I try to sum up the posts, there is they have a reflection about elements different. So there's all kinds of different layers and elements of doing this work of proposal preparation and project implementation. So in your post, there was a reflection about, like these processes. Pick out a process, and then there's a reflection, a well reflected sort of outline of how to think about these things. Also about doubts and worries. So that's what I mean with there's a heart behind. So this is what everybody that's doing these things. It mirrors very, very well how it is in the head of anybody who's doing this, but not everybody's able to express it. and yeah, so it's always important to have these sort of light poles, so to say, in between the context that expresses, so to say, mirrors your own understanding of how to do a thing, especially a complex area like EU funding area. Enough of the flatter. You get more flatter as we move on. Don't worry. We are going to attack the reporting today. And in the rundown, the draft rundown here, called the interim reporting and final reporting. But that's because I have not done this much lately. And as you wrote me earlier today, it's not called final reporting anymore. So, but I think everybody understands what we're talking about. So it's the reporting to the Commission, periodic report.
Yes.
Short fly in. So reporting. It's the I guess for any coordinator, it stands as a big milestone in their work when they start the project. So you're like dealing with the interim, so in the middle of the halfway and in the end of the project. What needs to be collected? How do we make it with the
Start with, let's say, some general consideration, because as you said, the reporting of a funded research project is a big milestone, but it's also one of the most aided and dreaded phases of the project. So because researchers hate reporting, because deep down they think research is research. You cannot channel research into a template, because in a way, reporting introduces an element of rigidity that can clash with the unpredictable nature of research. And in reporting, researchers are required to forecast outcomes, to project timelines, and anticipate challenges. And all this may be perceived by researchers as a limitation on the fluidity and spontaneity of the research process, but also on their ability to adapt to unexpected developments and explore new avenues of investigation. The other side of the coin is that researchers fear the reporting in some way, because their work will be evaluated, and this can lead to criticism. And the fact that they are requested to justify their choices, methodologies, and outcomes can trigger a sense of vulnerability and self-doubt. So the biggest challenge in supporting a coordinator or a consortium in general as a project manager lies not only in the coordination of all the partners in the process and the collation of all the needed data, but also in the ability to break down this kind of resistance.
Yeah, so it's sort of facilitating.
Yeah.
It's the
Exactly. So
it's making everybody as comfortable as possible with the fact that this is something we have to do, because now, of course, you have been working within the life science and health part, where you have a lot of researchers. Yeah, you've been working a lot with research organizations. That's natural.
yeah, and also a lot of clinicians, I will say, that is a different
Of course,
species among the researchers, let's say,
yeah.
for
And
example.
then you have, but you have also companies,
Not much,
of
in
course.
fact, but
But
yeah,
it's
sometimes.
very heavy on research, and that's perfect. It lies with the area, yeah. But companies wouldn't have the same. Let's just say cluster 6 bioeconomy. Companies that sort of have tried it before, or they are maybe a little bit. They're used to being measured, so to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of companies, you're used to having, okay, we need to make sure that we're on track with what we're doing. This is
Exactly.
basically what it is, right?
Yeah.
You need to, if they do a commercial project, or if it's just the company itself that is doing something where they have planned a strategy to roll out whatever technology development process or whatever projects they're dealing with, yeah, they need to keep track of, do we meet the targets that we have set out to meet, and so on. So how is it doing with the economy? Is it sliding sideways, and so on? So they would be, of course, less anxiety, right?
Yeah, sure. My perspective, of course, is due to the fact that I worked a lot with health researchers, and particularly with clinicians. So this is different for them.
But you also, it's often it's a research organization that is coordinating. Also in the other clusters, not just cluster 1. But if you are coordinating, they would very often be skilled in the report. But they would still have to deal with the research part of the partners that are uncomfortable with this. Now, maybe we hit so what we're talking about here. So maybe it's understanding a little bit the reporting requirements, and having an overview of what is it actually the Commission is requesting. So what are we looking at here, factually? So can you run us through it?
Yeah, sure. The purpose of the reporting, of course, is clear. It's first of all, it's an obligation that is included in the grant agreement. And when we talk about Horizon Europe, we are talking about the Article 21. And the reporting serves 3 main functions. So track the project progress, assess the project impact, and make sure that public money are spent properly and wisely. And this is very clear from the perspective of the European Commission. The point is also, what is the purpose of reporting from the point of view of the project partners? Because many times the question is, why spending so much time on this activity? So what is the value of the reporting from the side of the researchers, apart from being an obligation? No? Because you touched an important point. It is an obligation, but sometimes researchers do not see the point behind the obligation. No? And I would say that one of the first reasons that is purely practical is that payments to consortia are contingent on the approval of periodic reports by the Commission. So first of all, it is in the interest of project partners that the report is well done and the process is smooth. The second reason is that, from my perspective, inevitably the report forces the consortium to make a project assessment. So even if the project does not have a management structure efficient enough to identify problems before they occur, the reporting phase represents the time when partners identify deviation or not reached indicators, or even forgotten activities, because it happens. And they are necessarily obliged to confront each other to understand how best to handle them in the report. So in this sense, the report is not just an obligation, but represents an opportunity for the consortium. So if everything goes very well, it is the opportunity to showcase the work done and its significance. If something went wrong, it is an opportunity to reflect on the weak points and propose solution or mitigation strategies before the project officer read the report and comment on it. So it is the chance to appear, let's say, more conscious of the project activities and status and more proactive in the eyes of the project officer.
Yeah. It's well, basically you can say, look, if you have a good coordinator, then that coordinator is on a continuous basis or running basis, checking, sort of breaking the project period down in little bits, where they themselves keep track of how is it going with that process, or like they probably use the Gantt chart as the first place to start when they plan this, and then they start breaking this up to make sure that they don't come to the halfway and experience that things are sliding too much sideways. But indeed, it represents halfway. It represents no matter how good a coordinator you are, you might miss. It might be stuff that slips, or where you need to calibrate things based on, because that's the first time where everybody needs to report in. So it's I guess that it gives the opportunity to look each other in the eyes if there are anything contingency plans needs to be.
Of course, the effort should be the one to anticipate a little bit the reporting and anticipates the problems before the report should be written. But it's not like that in all the projects, of course. This may depend from a lot of reasons. For example, the coordinator may not be so experienced in managing projects, especially in those big projects. Maybe they do not have the assistance of grant office or research managers in their organization. Maybe they have just not planned very well on the management side, so they do not have a management structure that is supportive in this sense. So this depends on many reasons. But let's say that if everything fails, at least the reporting phase should be the occasion in which everyone talks to each other just to say, okay, how are we going to write this and report this to the European Commission?
No, so it's, I think, for what we put here, purpose of reporting is clear. It's the commission's. So you have a project officer, but they need to keep track of what's happening
Exactly.
with their money, with the taxpayers' money. What are you spending them on?
Yeah, because of course a grant is not a gift. So the grant, from the perspective of the European Commission, is an investment. So they would like to see that it is a good investment. So if we are going to release any result and we are going to spend the money well, so they need to check it.
Yeah, and so I have this up with the role of reporting project lifecycle management, but we touched it, right? Because it's basically the coordinator should see it as in the framework, as I just already mentioned. You break it down as a good project coordinator, right? You already have track on these things all along, and then it's sort of sit in that framework of reporting logistics, so to say, throughout the project. You know, like that's the big one where you need to hand it to the commission. But preparation, that counts for a lot of things here in life. So if you have done your homework throughout the project as a coordinator to follow things clearly, then it's also going to be much easier for the halfway and end reportings that you'll find.
Yeah, because in fact you are touching this topic of the preparation and the systems. So there should be systems behind the reporting, because the idea is that the reporting should not be a one-time effort, but it should be a continuous activity since day one of the project. So this is the idea, that we have systems in place and workflows and templates to collect the data, to verify the data processes, and since the start of the project. So also the fact that meetings are set periodically and regularly among the project partners to see that things are going well. So these are all parts of the preparation for the report.
Come back to that in a second. Now, here in the initial block, I put different types of reports.
Yeah.
So you have 3 of them. Is that correct?
In fact,
continuous
we have
reporting, periodic reporting, and final report.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
No, because in fact the final report it's not more one of the type of reports in, at least in Horizon Europe. So in the Horizon Europe program, there are 2 different types of report.
Okay.
So that.
So continuous and periodic.
Exactly.
So how do they work, so to say?
Yeah. So
can you share how the continuous reporting
So in the Horizon Europe program, we said that there are 2 different types of report that have differences in terms of purpose, frequency, and also contents. So we have the continuous reporting that, as the name suggests, is done on an ongoing basis via the funding and tenders portal. It allows to keep track of some specific project elements, such, for example, the deliverables and milestones, but also the risk, the publications, etc. And the continuous reporting modules is always open and can be updated at any moment during the project, for example, to submit deliverable and report on milestones, for example.
I never heard of this. This is my research when I made the rundown, but I've never run into a project where they can do. Have you done this?
The
continuous reporting?
Yes, sure. Yeah. I think it was already.
Okay. Which kind of projects are that? Pillar 2?
Yeah, sure. But also they were present also in Horizon 2020, if I remember correctly. So.
And how do they work? So I guess you have cutoff dates, no?
You just access the funding and tender portal, and you have a lot of windows that, let's say, compose this continuous reporting module, and you can continuously update them. So there are, let's say, a number of fields to be completed, but in general, you assess the continuous reporting module for the deliverables and milestone. And then when it's time to do the periodic report, the continuous reporting module feeds directly into the periodic report in one of the parts of the periodic report. So it facilitates in some way the completion of the periodic report then.
Okay, so you've sort of done it along the way, so it gathers the information itself when you come to halfway through and final. Okay.
Exactly. This is connected to the team of, say, preparing for the report, because this allows you to split a little bit the duty among the project duration without having to run every time at the reporting period. So, yeah. And then after the continuous reporting, we have the periodic reporting
which most people would know if they've been.
That focus on assessing the interim progress towards the project goals. It consists of a technical report on work carried out and a financial report on the costing card. This is done at regular intervals, so at the end of each reporting periods, So the reporting periods depend on the specific grant agreement, but typically are lasting 12 or 18 months. This is also depending on the complexity of the project and the milestones that the project has. So let's say when the grant agreement is defined, there is also the definition of the duration of the reporting periods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, we will dig a little bit more into this. This was just sort of to get what is that we're looking at here. Now, let's I put here preparing systems, because that is a very important element for everybody who needs to do this. You need to have your systems.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to be super watertight. Can you give some recommendations on what people should do?
Yeah. So the idea, as I said, is that reporting should not be a one-time effort, but should be a continuous activity since day one of the project. Not just because we have the continuous reporting module to complete, but because it is important that the reporting process is baked up with internal reporting processes, workflows, and mechanisms for data collection, verification, and review that should be set up right from the start of the project. This also includes having regular checkpoints and meetings among the project partners to see how things are going, and most importantly, intercept any problem before it becomes a big issue. Another way to prepare for reporting is instructing partners on reporting requirements from the project outset, especially in those projects that involve partners that are new to EU projects. So these ensure a common understanding of expectations and facilitate smooth reporting processes. This is
okay. Pause it here, because this is probably one of the most important things at all. This is from this episode. Because here we're talking about collecting data for the commission. We're talking about gathering what have we done, right? We're talking about giving them an idea of, so this is the process, the progress of the work that we promised you to do in the grant agreement, blah, blah, blah. The deliverables have been done, this we didn't make, but we will do this and this contingency to do it in the second period. And finally, final report, same thing. We did this and this we didn't make, but there's this and this reason for it. Now, all of this, you're, as a coordinator, you're relying on people.
Exactly.
You're relying on the goodwill and an organization of a lot of people you don't know. Some of them you know, but probably in projects before with them. So some of them you know by heart. But Ulla, you will have many people here that disappears, or that doesn't reply to your stuff. And when they send something back, it's absolutely horrible. There's no connection to the rest of the things that you need to do. The figures are all wrong.
It happens very frequently.
What now? And it's very important to paint the picture here, right?
Exactly.
Because it is very important. Now, Serena, what do you do? How do you connect with your group of partners too? Because this is about making people feel comfortable, making them like you, as you think that you're a good, strong coordinator, but it's also making people do things for you, right? Because you need them. Mm-hmm. They are your allies to having calm nights, sleeping calmly when you reach these deadlines for the commission, that they don't fuck up your your reporting because of this. So do you do anything? Do you have any people person strategies, so to say? Do you have any strategies on the psychology level of connecting with people, or for the kickoff meeting, or having special social events? So do anything in relation to this?
Let's say that at the kickoff meeting, of course, you need to make a presentation of the reporting requirements, because either the project officer will do some time, or a representative of the coordinator, grant office, or grant administration do that usually. The point is also that during the kickoff meeting, you can have the feeling of the people and start understanding how people react to probably already since the proposal development. So who are the people that are responding quickly, or are the ones that instead do not respond at all. So you just adapt to the different reactions of the people. So if you know that this person is answering to a certain type of request, you write the request in a certain way. If you know that this person should be called by phone to have something, then you do that. So this is generally the way I manage projects, because in the past I managed projects that were very, very large, meaning 30 organizations, 12 million euros. So it was huge. But the point is that you need to be perceived as reliable to them. So they need to understand and trust you as the person that can help them. So if anything can be done for them to help them, you need to do it, because otherwise you will not obtain the things that you need to have. And the effort that you spend in going towards them is probably less than the pain that you will suffer if you don't do it. So
yeah, but it's a horribly complex role. Now we're talking a little bit about the coordinator's role. Actually, I already recorded the coordinator episode in this series with Andrea from Inspire Science, and I think we also went into this because the psychology of the role, right? So you need to be, not only do you need to be trustworthy and likable, but you also need to impose respect. Yeah, because you need to be tough sometimes. Yeah. But you have to be that you cannot have too much edge in your in the tough part of being a coordinator, when you need to speak direct, so to say, when you need to have that take out that part of towards a partner or several, because you cannot lose it. If you lose it, then you lose respect, and if you start losing respect and confidence of your peers in the group, then they will also the slide in the content will also slide. It has so many. The role requires a very delicate balance between being likable. Everybody, you need to have the respect from everybody, and likable, and so the soft people carry the people capacities, and the hard management capacities. That it's very it's very different how coordinators they handle this role, and if they are not aware of this, they very quickly become aware of it when they start doing coordinating. The importance of being able to gather people around you, and at the same time be the boss.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But of course, the point here is to safeguard the interest of the project. So this should be done, because as you said, if you lost one of the partner and you lost the collaboration of some of them, you put at risk the project. So the important thing is that the project is accomplished as it was planned. And okay, if it is accomplished also with deviation, is fine. But you need to go to you need to arrive to the end of the project somehow. So you need to.
So if we sort of make a call back to where we reached here in the conversation about preparing your systems, this, when you prepare your systems in the same the work you do parallel to this, with setting up your systems, you communicate, because your systems, they're often shared drives, whatever, Teams, whatever you use. So you prepare your systems, you have the shared drives. Of course, you have your own drives on your own labs, your own system, but it often mirrors how it looks on the common drive that you look at least in relation to the reporting. So there you have a psychologist, you set them up, and you communicate with people where they are. It's very important. And make sure that, because you were very early, people need to understand the sloppy ones. Oh, where's that link? Where, where's the link? Where's the link to the drive? Where? Oh, I can't log on. Or you can see if they have to put things onto the drive, the dear partners, because that's the reality of it. That's why you're doing your systems. That's to make these things work in reality. That's the continuous, so to say, following things as a coordinator. So that's the people part of preparing your systems, that these systems are as logical and easy to deal with as possible.
Yeah, in fact, the idea is to keep things simple, because otherwise people get lost in the ocean of guidelines and templates, etc. So let's say that often I use the old style way of collecting things. So to say that I ask separately to each of them the data that I need, and then I collect all of them and consolidate them in one unique file. I know that this is not usual at this time, because we have cooperation tools, etc. But when you have large consortia and you have to adapt the procedures also to the preferences somehow of the people, then you are forced to, let's say, do differently, because otherwise you need to dedicate so much time to follow up to people and send reminders, etc., that at the end you probably get mad.
I didn't think about this when I made the rundown, but you're making a very important point, because in this world of tools, project management tools, or how to work with all kind of apps that can do all kinds of supposedly help in collaboration processes. You have a lot of them, and some coordinators, they start to tap into that and do introducing these kind of things. You can do that, but I think you'll agree with me, Serena, that you have to use the lowest common denominator in terms of what people can deal with as a person, because not everybody are tech savvy and just tap very easily into any new kind of tool or way of working, or new passwords, or new. Often you will have, if you have old professors from a university in Macedonia, or I don't know, but that would. I just need to send this by an email, and that's it. So you need.
Many times I had to collaborate with professors that are also head of clinical departments, for example. So, they juggle between two different work, and they are almost traveling every day. So if they have to access to different platforms, and as you said, remind about the credentials to access the links, etc. So it's much easier for them to receive something via email that they can complete also in the airport while waiting for the flight, and then get back to the project manager. So it's easier.
Yeah. And even I have to admit, and that's because the organization I work for, it's a municipality based. So it's a local authority, and the IT department we have there, it's very focused on IT security. So this combination of IT security and not having a lot of money, even though it's a Danish municipality, they don't have a lot of money. So the subscription we have with Teams means that the projects we are involved in, and I am involved in a national project, for instance, funded by the EU Social Fund, the collaboration place we have is Teams. Yeah, this is where we have our files. This is our common drive, shared drive with files, and this is also the chat system throughout the working groups and so on. But the thing is, because we have a crappy version of the subscription we have with Teams, I cannot. It took me a long time to fix this. So I had full access, because what I'm trying to say here is that even systems that are commonly used, you will find someone say send it by email.
Yeah.
You know,
Also because not everyone, for example, use Teams, for example.
for instance,
Get familiar to that system. Yeah.
in the Danish context, it's easy because it's very common, but in an international context, EU context, with maybe 7 or 8 or 9 different countries, sometimes even more. Simple, make it simple. Don't make it Stone Age. That's not what we're saying here. But sometimes, like it's Zoom is a good example. Yeah, online meetings. That's totally normal for even the worst tech-savvy person in the world now, because everybody was doing it for 2 years because of other circumstances that we all know. So that's a common thing now, that everybody can log on to an online meeting now without taking 30 minutes, which it did before COVID. You would always have the one person that couldn't log in to the video. Yeah. So, but that's an example of a solution that everybody now can use. That's not a problem anymore. So these things, use the things that everybody knows, and then you can test with the group. Yeah, you can test and say, look, I know this great tool, and this can help us a lot with the financial reporting, whatever. But don't be stubborn about it. If you have people, because people are gonna don't get us started, because they in their end will have to check. Then they have to check with managers. They have to check with their IT departments. So then you start making life. You don't want to make life difficult for them being in your project, because there's enough they have to handle in relation to being in the project.
Completely agree. And you touch another point that is important, I think, when talking about preparing for the report. You mentioned the fact to test, and somehow some projects, for example, use internal reporting as a preparatory step to allow consortium members to familiarize with the reporting process and then streamline the transition to the official reporting phase. So, for example, if their reporting period is 12 months, they decide to have an interim report that is internal, not official, will not be sent to the European Commission, but it's just an internal document. And, for example, at 6 months, saying, okay, we are testing the way in which we will deal with the reporting phase at the end of the year. But for the moment, we keep it internal. We try to understand how things are going, if people are able to complete the templates that we devised, if people understood the level of details that they need to provide, etc. So this is one of the things that I see most of the time. But of course, this is not mandatory. It depends. So sometimes this is added to the consortium agreement. And in this case, okay, all the partners agree. But yeah, it's not mandatory. And sometimes it could be perceived as a burden, especially from the financial perspective, because for administration, it means that they are requested to provide financial details more often than required in the grant agreement. So sometimes it's not, it depends. So if the internal reporting is used just for the technical part, could work. I saw that when you try to combine the two things, technical and financial reporting, you usually have problems with the financial part because of that, because administration just said, okay, I'm busy with other deadlines, formal deadlines. This is just an internal document. I will not reply because I don't want to spend time in collecting amounts of money and items that should not be provided to the European Commission. So,
yeah, I think hearing it like this, I think it sounds like a nice idea because you train yourself. But I can also very much understand the resource argument why some would not introduce such a solution. Well, I think now this is also the podcast is also about inspiring people on how they can attack did things in different ways, right? So it's out there now for you there if you didn't think about this before and you think this could maybe help you in your next project to implement. It's hereby out there. You heard it first in the grant. Serena, is there anything else in preparing this? Because now I just threw a glance at the timing, and maybe we should move into the reporting elements. Now, this episode might very well be into 2 episodes, because I can foresee that it's a conversation like this can very easily go into 2 hours, and that is a 2-episoder. But we just take it step by step, so we don't rush anything. We make sure that we cover everything that needs to be covered. Do you have any other notes in relation to preparing your systems? Cool. It's also me chatting away, but it's also I'm inspired when it's like this. This is my guest. I have always nice guests, and I'm inspired by what I suddenly remember from my background. No, next block, the halfway report. Now I call it interim reporting here. Are we allowed to call it interim reporting?
Yeah, you can call it interim or periodic. So the European Commission call it periodic reporting. But yeah.
So this would typically come halfway in. Do you ever have it cut down into 3 parts? Some projects. Does that happen?
What do you mean by 3 parts?
You mean that normally it's halfway through and end reporting, but do you have sometimes that they cut the reporting into 3 episodes? You understand what I mean? If you have a 3-year project where you have to report every year.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Yeah. It could be.
Okay.
Sometimes, as I mentioned, the periodic the reporting period are usually of 12 months or 18 months, but it depends from the type of project also. Because, for example, I'm managing a twinning project, and in that case, the project will last 3 years, and they have just one reporting period lasting
At the end
whole.
of-
Yeah. So they just need to have one reporting at the end. So it depends on the grant
That I
agreement.
didn't know could be like that. I always thought there would be some sort of check and balance at some point. No, okay.
It depends. As I said before, also depends on the milestones, because if there is a key milestone, for example, at month 9, the European Commission may also consider the possibility to have a reporting period of 9 months, just to be sure that that milestone is met, and then complete the rest of the project. So this depends on a case-by-case basis. So they are decided this way.
All right. Let's have a look at it. So we're not talking about the end project report. Now we're talking about the periodic reportings now. So they can be anything from halfway through or 1 year through, whatever. Definition and purpose of interim reporting. So here I have in the sub-bullets monitoring progress and milestones and adjusting project direction as necessary. But can you put a little bit more words on it?
Yeah. So the primary purpose of periodic reporting is to provide updates on the project progress in the period compared to the work plan outlined in the grant agreement. So this includes describing the activities performed in each relevant work package and task, reporting on the status of deliverable and milestones, and providing an overview of the role of each activities towards the project goals. So as I mentioned before, as results of this assessment through the periodic report, project partners may discover that something is not going in the expected direction, or that they are not obtaining the desired outcome. So in this sense, one of the scope of the periodic reporting is also to adjust the project direction if it is necessary, because we will see probably later in the episode, there is a specific section of the periodic report that is related to deviations from the work plan. So consortia requested to describe the deviation, but also the way in which they plan to face this change to ensure that this has no major impact on the project objectives. So the same is also from a financial perspective. So partners may realize that they have underestimated the cost of some activities, or that they have not distributed their budget among budget items in a proper way. So the classical example here is related to travel. So at the proposal stage, many partners do not budget enough for the meetings because they do not realize that the management structure foresees, an in-person meeting every 6 months. And at some point, they realize that they have almost finished the amount that they expected to spend for the entire project, and they have to adjust because otherwise they are not allowed to go to the meetings. So this is one classical example because it happens many times, unfortunately. So sometimes it happens during the proposal development that the coordinators already set the number of meetings and they set specific budget for travel cost, for example. So they already input a budget that is similar for everyone, saying, okay, 1,000 euros, for each meeting. And we are going to have 8 meetings throughout the project. So this way, it's easier to ensure that the meeting, the budget that is assigned to the meetings is enough. But sometimes the estimation is left to the partner, and then the partner do not realize that they need so much budget for the travel because probably they would like to spend more, on laboratory cost or any other budget item. And then you realize that the reality is not matching. So
experienced coordinators, they send a suggestion. Yeah. They say, look, this is from our experience. We suggest everybody we take this amount of money for the travel. That was what we did in P&O, because the company that does so many proposals, right? It's obviously you suggest it. But then I've been in places with coordinators where you suggested yourself to make your own calculation based on. It's also a matter of what kind of partner you are, because if you have planned a lot of meetings on site, physical meetings in a specific content work package, and if you're only involved in communication dissemination activities, of course your traveling budget is different then. But then what we do say, look, as a rule of thumb, each travel is X amount. So count yourself how many you have based on your activities, and then put that figure. So. What does it look like? So essential elements here. So you already mentioned, so you have the financial part and you have the technical part. How is it? Have I ever seen? I actually did one back in many years ago in 2009, an FP6 project.
Okay.
I was responsible for, because I came in the Danish Agency for Science, Technology and Innovation, and I took over the last period of an FP6, coordinating the last 6 months or something like this of an FP6 project.
It changed a lot since then.
I was a junior. Jesus, I had never done anything like this before with any kind of EU funding, anything. So I stepped in and I was put into this role. So I did that, but I cannot remember very well. Is that template?
Yeah.
Well,
let's say that
take us through it.
Now with the introduction of the funding and tender portal everything is different. So you have the technical part and the financial part. The technical part, it's divided into 2 sections. One part that is completed online, that is called Part A, that is completed through the funding and tender portals, and contains the structure table with the project information, which is automatically fed by the continuous reporting model. As we said before, once you complete the continuous reporting, then the information that you provide there are automatically completing the Part A of the periodic report. And this Part A is very huge, include a lot of things. So we have a project summary, for example, for publication, meaning that the summary that you provide here should be easy to read and understand also for a non-technical audience. So they need to publish it after the report is submitted. And then you have an update also on the list of researchers that are involved in the project. Then you have the list of deliverables, of course, with all the deliverables that are due, the list of milestones, the list of critical risks. So here you have to provide the state of play of those that you have already identified in the description of action, but also you have the possibility to indicate new risks that presented throughout the project duration. And then you have a set of tables that are dedicated to the impact of the project. And these include, for example, the key project results, the exploitation strategies, the result ownership, the IPR, the list of data sets, the list of publication arising from the project, the communication and dissemination activities, the impact on sustainable development goals, the citizens' engagement opportunity. So as you see, there are a lot of details here, but as this information could be completed throughout the project duration, of course, the suggestion is not to wait until the end of the reporting period to complete them, because otherwise it's a lot of work to do all at once. So
now you sort of listed what it consists of. So how do you work with it? So it's standard. You have the reporting period when you start, so you know it. So you've done this a lot of times, so you have totally standardized your systems. I would expect that it's like you copy paste it into the next project that you start to code.
No, of course, every project is different, but as I said, there is not a standard method in a way, because you need to adapt to the preferences of different consortia, for example. So in some way, in some projects, you can decide that, okay, you have a template and everyone works autonomously and then go back to you with all the things done. And in other projects, you may decide differently. So there is no standard method at all. But
so I expected wrongly.
Yeah, let's say that.
So share with me and the listeners, how do you, so it's the first milestone, so to say, when you start the project, the first milestone is the first periodic reporting.
Mm-hmm.
So you set up your systems as we just explained.
Let's say that.
So how does it run?
You have to circulate some templates to collect some of this information throughout the reporting period. For example, the dissemination and communication activities. So you regularly distribute this template that most probably is an Excel file that is reflecting all the different information that you have to complete on the funding and tender portal. And then you regularly collect the information, and then you can transfer to the funding and tender portal at the time of the reporting period. But this is one of the issue. For example, for the key project results, exploitation strategies, etc., you probably deal with that during the reporting phase, because it's probably more difficult to collect them throughout the duration of the project, because you probably make the list of project results when you write the report. So could be more easy to have some part of that could be anticipated, some other may probably not. So the reporting phase may be crowded because you have a lot of things to collect from many partners, and then you need to manage them.
How let's just, so you have the passive collection, so to say, that you start already when the project starts, the sort of the running collection of things that will go into, and then you have the active, so to say, when you have to put the report together. How early do you start that? How much in advance? A month? 2 months? When do you start preparing the periodic report?
So let's say that the periodic report should be submitted within 60 days from the end of the reporting period. This means, for example, that if your project started on January 1st and your reporting period is lasting 12 months, this implies that your first reporting period will close at the end of December that year, and that you will have to submit the report 60 days after. So let's say by the end of February of the following year. But let's say that 60 days may not be enough to collect all of this information, because as we said, we have this part A to be completed online, but then we have also part B of the technical report that requires to collect the contribution of all the partners for all the work packages and tasks. And so this work requires a lot of time, is very time consuming, because you receive a different contribution from different partners written in different ways. So you have
what I just said somewhat 20 minutes ago.
Exactly. So you need to homogenize everything into one coherent document, and you need to be sure that you touched all the points that you needed. And this may require several interactions with the partner. And so this may take long time, especially for the technical part. And then we have the financial part that requires administration to complete the financial statement online with the eligible cost that they have incurred during the period. And this may also require some time, because the cost should be that should be reported should be the ones that are incurred during the reporting period. So if the reporting period closes at the end of December, the administration should have some time to collect the data until the end of the report. So they cannot start earlier than that, because otherwise they may miss some of the data that are needed for the reporting. So usually administration needs some time to collect this data. So let's say that the first deadline for the financial part is usually 30 days after the reporting period, because this allows the administration to collect the data, be sure that everything is registered in the systems, etc. But then once they complete the draft of the financial statement, the coordinator should go back and say, okay, this is okay, but you have to revise this. You have to justify this amount, because from the technical report is not clear what these costs were spent for. So this is a lot of interactions, both on the technical side and the financial side. So let's say that 60 days may be enough in some way, but for other issues, probably not. So for the technical part, I usually start before the 60 days, let's say at least 1 year, one month before the end of the reporting period.
Because there are some things that you can start earlier, right?
Yeah, of course.
Of course, you have the financial part that you make sure that all that cannot be collected before you have passed the date, but are things that you can.
Yeah, for the technical side, for example, of course, even though you are finishing some experiments throughout the months, you can always start with the work that has been accomplished already. So you can start writing. So it's not a problem.
Probably, let's just say it's a 4-year project, right? And it's a periodic, say, look, halfway through second, so you will have maybe 1 or 2 work packages that has been finalized.
Yeah, exactly. And
then, where there's hardly any activities left, where you can easily sum up and. But I think a thought hit me when you said about collecting different types of technical descriptions. Yeah, so the content, the poetry, so to say. Have you considered maybe using ChatGPT or something like this to feed it with the information without it changing the information, but feeding it and then making it because that's what it can do, these text large language models, right? They can synchronize, so to say, on the way the language is being used.
I've not done yet. Maybe in the future I will think about it. For the moment, I'm a little bit cautious.
If it's sensitive information, naturally you cannot.
Yeah, because also it's sensitive information. So you are in some way releasing scientific data that may probably not, not yet published yet. Or
what you will see, Serena, is that because you already have some of these large language models, Mistral, I think it's called, that's off the grid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's locally on your computer. It doesn't share information, right? So you will have models being developed as you move on that are more and more secure,
Sure.
where you don't share anything, but where it helps you with something like this.
Yeah,
we'll
it's a suggestion.
But I understand.
I will probably try and test this in the future, but for the moment, no, it was not so advanced when I deal with my last periodic reports.
I'm also conservative the way I work with these kind of things. So I would probably do it like you. But I know my good friend Christian, who's been on this show a couple of times, who was doing the AI series with me, he would say, "Look, guys, you're wasting your time."
No, I see.
No. Is there anything else that we should include here in the talk about the periodic reporting that people should be aware of, or because now we talk a little about being aware of the systems, make sure that they're continuously, so you don't get surprised when you have to report. They have different elements, the technical parts, the financial parts. You have psychology of gathering and your indicators. So I think it's very important to underline what you just said, that this is something that is resource intensive.
Yeah. No, I think that for the, let's say, key elements of the reporting, I think we are fine. Yeah.
Now I didn't make a bridge here. Just the next element, the next block I have is the final. It's not allowed to call it final report. The reporting in the end of the project. Yeah, when you have to report when the project.
Yeah, but at this point, what I would say is just that at the very end of the project, the report will look like as the report.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link in the episode notes where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this double episode, you'll find a link to Serena's personal LinkedIn site. Further, there will be, of course, a link to the rest of the implementation series. Next week, you'll get the second half of this episode. Here, Serena will take us through the complexities of the final reporting and, of course, practical advice and do's and don'ts. This you don't want to miss. Remember that the Grant would really like to join some EU proposals as a partner or subcontractor. I am slowly getting interested feedback for having the Grant included in proposals for 2025 calls. Reach out if you would also like to have the coolest podcast connected to your consortium. Also remember that you can develop your very own podcast episodes together with the Grant. You get a plug-and-play solution where you only need to think about the content. And who should be on the show naturally. Reach out also if you just want to get an idea of the possibilities. See you next week.